Ethan tightened the last bolt on the damaged hull panel and stepped back, wiping the sweat from his forehead. The hum of the space station around him made him feel both small and alive. He had worked on many ships before, but this one was different. It wasn't human. Its curves and lines seemed almost alive, and the materials shimmered in a way no human alloy could imitate. The station's dim lights reflected off its surface, giving it a ghostly aura. He had been warned, do not get too close, do not touch what you don't understand. But here he was, hands greasy, heart pounding, utterly fascinated. The alien suit lying inert in front of him was more than just protective gear. It was a living shell, designed to interface with the pilot in ways he could barely comprehend. Ethan had spent hours studying the exposed systems, adjusting panels, rewiring circuits, and carefully avoiding the things that could trigger any defense. The alien inside seemed almost aware of him, her body perfectly still, the suit's sensors glowing faintly in response to his presence. He glanced at the small monitor clipped to his belt. It displayed the status of the ship's critical systems. They were unstable. Any mistake could lead to a cascade failure. Ethan took a deep breath and reminded himself why he had been chosen for this task. Humans were known for ingenuity, for thinking under pressure, and for surviving situations that would terrify almost any other species. Today, that reputation had to hold true. As he worked on the power conduits, a small flicker of light caught his eye. He looked up just in time to see the alien suit begin to shift. It was subtle at first, a twitch here, a flex there, almost as if it were alive in ways he had never imagined. Ethan froze, unsure what to do. He had expected the alien to be passive or at least compliant. But now it seemed curious, almost testing him. Then, without warning, the alien did something completely unexpected. She removed part of her suit. Slowly, deliberately, the helmet lifted, revealing a face unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. For a moment he thought it was human, soft features, expressive eyes, but there was something otherworldly about her. Her skin had a subtle glow, almost like moonlight on water, and faint, intricate markings traced along her cheekbones and neck. Ethan's breath caught. He had studied alien species in simulators, but he had never anticipated a being so similar to humans in appearance. The alien's eyes met his, and he felt a strange, unspoken communication. It wasn't words, it was something deeper, a telepathic impression that filled his mind with a sense of curiosity and awareness. She was watching him as much as he was watching her, gauging his reaction, measuring his confidence. Ethan's initial shock melted into fascination. He realized that this was more than a repair job now. This was a meeting between minds, between species, a moment that could redefine his understanding of the universe. "All right," he whispered to himself. "Just keep calm, just do your job." Ethan resumed his work, hands steady despite the rapid beating of his heart. He adjusted the conduits, realigned the panels, and carefully fused delicate circuits. Every move was measured, precise, because he knew the alien could sense even the smallest mistake. As he worked, he felt a presence behind him, not physical but mental, a subtle guidance that seemed to come from her, directing his hands toward the correct components. The station's lights flickered, casting long shadows across the hull. Ethan noticed that the alien suit had been partially removed, exposing more of her form. Her body was humanoid, yet adapted to survive in space environments. She was lithe and strong, with a fluidity that spoke of both agility and resilience. The markings along her skin pulsed faintly, almost in rhythm with the ship's systems, as if she and the vessel were connected in ways Ethan could not comprehend. Minutes stretched into hours as they worked together, silently communicating through gestures and impressions. Ethan realized that the alien was not just a passive passenger. She was actively participating, offering insight and subtle corrections through her telepathic influence. He marveled at her intelligence, her precision, and the fact that she seemed to respect human ingenuity. She did not take over, she guided. And in that guidance, Ethan saw something he hadn't expected, recognition of human capability. A sudden jolt rocked the station. Ethan stumbled, heart leaping into his throat. The ship shuddered as if protesting their interference. Sparks flew from a damaged panel, and he instinctively reached out to stabilize it. The alien reacted instantly, her hands moving in a blur as she adjusted the delicate systems inside her ship. Her touch was precise, almost surgical, yet there was a human quality to it, a sense of empathy for the fragile machinery and the human beside her. "You okay?" Ethan asked aloud, though he doubted she could hear him. She paused, and for a moment he thought he saw a smile, subtle but real. Then she returned to her work, eyes focused, movements deliberate. Ethan realized that despite her advanced technology, despite her alien physiology, she was capable of understanding human concern and responding to it in kind. The repair continued, and Ethan noticed more details about her form. Her skin seemed to adapt to the station's low gravity, flexing and stretching in ways that allowed her to maintain perfect balance. Her eyes reflected the station lights, bright and intelligent, and there was a depth to them that spoke of experience, curiosity, and perhaps loneliness. He wondered what it must be like to traverse the galaxy in a suit that separates you from the world, only revealing your true self when trust is established. As the critical system stabilized, Ethan leaned back, wiping his brow. "Almost there," he murmured, more to himself than to her. The alien observed, her eyes following every movement, a silent acknowledgement of his progress. He felt a strange sense of camaraderie forming, a bridge between human determination and alien skill. Then came the unexpected challenge. A minor surge of energy from the station's power grid threatened to overload the ship's newly repaired circuits. Ethan froze, knowing the consequences could be catastrophic. The alien noticed immediately, and without hesitation she extended her hand toward the panel. Her touch sparked faintly, and Ethan realized she was transferring energy safely, stabilizing the circuits through her suit's remaining interface. "Impressive," he said softly, admiration evident in his voice. The alien's response was subtle, a tilt of the head, a soft pulse along her markings. It was a gesture that conveyed respect. Ethan understood. In this moment, human ingenuity had earned acknowledgement from a species far more advanced, a species that might have dismissed him as fragile or incapable. He continued his work, now with renewed confidence. The bond between them grew stronger, built not on words but on mutual respect and shared purpose. Ethan adjusted delicate conduits, rerouted power flows, and made small modifications that even the alien seemed to approve of. It was a dance of intelligence and skill, a silent collaboration that transcended language and species boundaries. Hours passed, and the station's dim lights began to shift as orbital rotation changed the angle of illumination. Ethan noticed that the alien had now removed more of her suit, revealing the full extent of her physiology. She moved with grace, every motion deliberate and precise. Her skin shimmered faintly under the station lights, and the markings that traced her form glowed softly, reacting to the energy flowing through her ship. She was beautiful, not in a human sense alone, but in a way that combined alien design with an uncanny familiarity. Ethan felt a strange warmth, a connection that went beyond professional curiosity. He realized that this encounter was changing him. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy, seen as fragile and primitive. Yet here he was, standing beside an alien who had lived among the stars, and she had revealed herself to him. Not because he was special in some inherent way, but because he had proven that humans could think, adapt, and act under pressure. A soft vibration ran through the floor, signaling the completion of the critical repairs. Ethan checked the monitors. The ship's systems were stable, power flows normalized, and structural integrity restored. He let out a sigh of relief, feeling both exhaustion and exhilaration. The alien observed him, her eyes reflecting what Ethan could only interpret as approval. She had not just allowed him to repair her ship. She had tested him, guided him, and ultimately acknowledged his capabilities. In that recognition, Ethan saw the essence of what humanity could offer to the galaxy: intelligence, courage, and creativity in situations that others might deem impossible. As he stepped back, preparing to leave, the alien extended a hand. Ethan hesitated, then reached out. For a brief moment, their fingers brushed, and he felt a surge of understanding pass between them. It was not merely a gesture of thanks. It was an acknowledgement of partnership, of respect earned through action rather than status or strength. Ethan smiled, a mixture of pride and relief. The repair had been completed, but the encounter had given him something more, a glimpse of what humans could achieve, even when facing the unknown. The alien returned to her suit, slowly sealing it around her form, but the impression she had left was indelible. He knew this moment would stay with him for the rest of his life. As the station's lights dimmed and Ethan prepared to leave, he couldn't help but look back at the alien ship. She had removed her suit mid-repair, revealing not just her form, but her trust. And in that moment, Ethan realized that humans might not always have the physical advantages of other species, but they possessed something equally formidable: the courage to act, the ingenuity to solve, and the heart to earn respect where it was least expected. He took one last look, feeling a quiet determination settle in his chest. Humanity had a place in the stars, and encounters like this proved it. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew humans would rise, adapt, and persevere. And perhaps, somewhere in the galaxy, beings like her would continue to see them not as fragile creatures, but as equals in spirit, if not in form. Ethan turned and walked away, leaving the repaired ship behind. But the memory of her eyes, the glow of her markings, and the unspoken communication they shared would stay with him forever. Humanity had been tested, and in the quiet of that space station, it had prevailed, not through force, but through thought, skill, and heart. And somewhere deep within the alien suit, she acknowledged it too. The station shuddered lightly as Ethan returned to the maintenance bay, still thinking about the alien who had revealed herself mid-repair. Even after hours, he could not shake the memory of her eyes, the faint glow of her skin, and the unspoken recognition of human skill. His hand still carried traces of the repair, grease, burn marks from sparks, but his mind was alive with new energy, curiosity, and a sense of purpose. Something about the encounter had stirred him, a quiet pride that humans could rise to challenges no one expected them to survive. As he examined his tools and adjusted them for the next task, a soft vibration ran through the station's hull. At first it was barely perceptible, a gentle hum beneath his feet. Then it grew stronger, a low, insistent thrum that made the hair on his neck stand up. Ethan froze, listening. The station's alarms were silent, yet the vibration carried a warning. Something was coming. He glanced at the monitor, but it displayed nothing unusual. The storm was not predicted. The outer sensors flickered uncertainly, struggling to make sense of the unusual readings. Ethan took a deep breath. He had faced emergencies before, but something about this felt different. It was not just a system failure or a minor accident. It was the unknown pressing close, testing him once again. He felt a pull toward the alien ship. Perhaps it was curiosity, perhaps instinct, but he could not ignore it. Whatever was happening, it would affect both him and the alien whose trust he had earned. When he approached the ship, he found the alien still partially out of her suit. She floated in low gravity, her limbs moving fluidly as she checked the delicate circuits and energy flows. Her eyes caught his, and for a moment Ethan felt that same telepathic connection from before. It was stronger now, urgent, and it carried a warning: storm approaching, dangerous, protect systems. Ethan nodded even though he knew she could not see the gesture. He reached for the tools, ready to act. The station's lights flickered as the outer doors rattled against the sudden surge of energy outside. Sparks flew from minor systems in the station, and a thin wail of pressure echoes through the hull. Ethan's heart pounded. He was not just a repairman anymore. He was the protector of a ship, a species, and perhaps even the fragile bond forming between them. The alien moved closer, her hands brushing against exposed conduits. She worked quickly, adjusting delicate elements of her ship's power distribution. Ethan watched, fascinated by the harmony of her movements. Unlike humans, she did not need to calculate or hesitate. Her mind and body were perfectly adapted to the task. Yet, despite her superiority in technique, she did not take over. She allowed Ethan to act, guided subtly, showing trust in his judgment. Suddenly, a violent jolt shook the station. Ethan lost his balance and grabbed a nearby support rail. He looked at the monitors again. Energy levels were spiking dangerously. A surge could destroy the ship or cause a chain reaction that might cripple the entire station. Panic tried to rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Humans had survived impossible odds before, using ingenuity, improvisation, and sheer willpower. This was no different. The alien's hand extended toward a vulnerable panel, her fingers moving over the circuits in precise, elegant motions. Ethan realized that she was attempting to stabilize the system with her own energy interface. He hesitated, then remembered a principle his instructors had drilled into him. Sometimes, the human solution is to adapt, not mimic. He reached into his tool kit and grabbed a set of flux regulators and energy dampeners he had modified for emergencies. Working side by side, the human and the alien synchronized their efforts. Ethan adjusted the flow of energy with careful hands, improvising in ways even the alien had not predicted. She tilted her head, impressed, and Ethan felt a quiet thrill. The subtle acknowledgement of respect passed through their minds, a bond forged in the fire of crisis. The station shook again, stronger this time. Panels cracked and small lights exploded, showering sparks across the hull. Ethan shouted to the alien, though she could not hear him. "Hold on, we've got this." His hands moved faster, welding, rerouting, and securing the circuits. The alien's eyes followed him, glowing faintly with what seemed like encouragement. Hours passed in a blur. Time became meaningless as they battled the storm together. Ethan's human endurance was tested. His muscles ached, his breath came in ragged gasps, yet he did not stop. He could feel the alien beside him, not as a separate being, but as part of a team, their minds connected through trust and purpose. At one point, Ethan glanced at the alien more closely. She had removed her suit completely now, moving freely and with a precision he could not match. Yet despite her advanced physiology, she relied on him. It was a revelation. Humans were physically weaker, slower, less durable, yet in moments like these, they could compensate through intelligence, creativity, and courage. The alien's trust was not given lightly, and her acknowledgement of human ability was a quiet, profound respect. The storm reached its peak. The station groaned under the pressure, and Ethan realized that if the surge continued, both the alien and the station could be lost. Desperation forced him to think faster than ever. He noticed a weak point in the ship's stabilizers, a conduit that could be rerouted using the dampeners and a human-made power stabilizer he had assembled earlier. It was risky. Failure could mean immediate failure of the entire system, yet hesitation was more dangerous. He moved. Sparks flew as he connected the stabilizer, bending circuits in ways the alien herself had not anticipated. Her eyes widened slightly, impressed. He held his breath as energy flowed through the system. Slowly, the surge diminished. Monitors returned to normal, the hum of the station steadied, and the alien's body relaxed. She floated back, observing Ethan with what he interpreted as amazement and approval. Ethan exhaled, feeling the tension leave his body. The storm was still raging outside, but the ship was stable and the critical systems were secure. He looked at the alien, and for the first time she seemed to smile, faint but unmistakable. The telepathic impression he received carried the words, "You are remarkable. Your species is remarkable." The human heart swelled with pride. All his training, all his instincts, all the survival skills that had defined humanity had come together in this moment. They had survived not through superior strength or technology, but through thought, courage, and adaptability. The alien had removed her suit mid-repair, revealing her form and her trust. Ethan had not expected it, but it had changed everything. Even as the storm continued outside, a new calm settled over the ship. Ethan and the alien moved together, finishing minor adjustments, securing systems, and ensuring that nothing was left unstable. They worked silently, the bond between them deepening with every movement, every decision, every shared glance. Eventually, the storm began to subside. The energy fluctuations slowed, the lights steadied, and the hull groaned less frequently. Ethan stepped back, exhausted but triumphant. The alien floated near him, her form glowing faintly, and their eyes met once more. The telepathic impression this time was softer, warmer. "You have earned respect. You have proven what your species can do." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. Humans often underestimated themselves, but this encounter proved something undeniable. The human mind, combined with courage and ingenuity, could overcome challenges that others deemed impossible. Even advanced species like her could recognize that. As they completed the final repairs, Ethan noticed that the alien's markings pulsed in rhythm with the energy flowing through her ship. It was almost like a heartbeat, a signal of life and trust. He marveled at the harmony between her and the technology, and he understood something profound. Humans may not have the same physical abilities, but they had resilience, creativity, and the ability to act decisively in moments that required it. That was a power no technology could match. Finally, the alien reactivated her suit, sealing it around her body. She gave a slight nod, a gesture of acknowledgement and gratitude. Ethan felt a strange warmth, knowing that the encounter had changed both of them. She had tested him, guided him, and ultimately respected him. He had survived the storm not by brute force, but by using every tool at his disposal, every lesson humanity had learned over centuries of struggle and adaptation. Ethan floated back toward the station's interior, taking one last look at the alien ship. She was preparing to leave, her systems humming with restored energy. He felt a quiet pride, not just in himself, but in humanity as a whole. The galaxy might underestimate humans, but encounters like this proved that they were not weak. They could think, adapt, survive, and earn respect even from beings far more advanced. The storm outside finally passed, leaving the station battered but intact. Ethan reflected on the events, realizing that what had begun as a simple repair job had become a test of skill, courage, and human ingenuity. The alien had removed her suit mid-repair, revealing her trust, her abilities, and her recognition of something uniquely human. That act alone had transformed the encounter from a routine mission into a moment of understanding and respect between species. He adjusted his tools, cleaned his hands, and prepared to file the report. But his mind lingered on the alien, on the bond they had forged, and on the realization that humanity had a place in the stars. Humans were fragile in many ways, but they had a strength no one could take away: the ability to face the unknown, to think, and to act where others might hesitate. Ethan floated through the station corridors, carrying the memory of the alien's eyes, the glow of her markings, and the unspoken acknowledgement of human skill. He knew that the story of this encounter would stay with him forever. Humanity had been tested, and in the quiet of that storm-tossed station it had prevailed, not through strength or firepower, but through courage, intelligence, and heart. And somewhere beyond the hull, as the alien returned to her exploration, she too carried the memory. Humans were different, unpredictable, and astonishing. She had witnessed it firsthand. Ethan stopped at the observation deck, staring out into the swirling colors of the gas giant below. The storm was gone, the station quiet, and yet the universe seemed fuller, more alive, filled with possibilities. He felt a sense of determination settle in him. Humanity would rise, adapt, and face whatever lay beyond the stars. And perhaps in time they would be recognized not just as survivors, but as equals in spirit. The alien's ship shimmered faintly as it prepared for departure. Ethan watched until it disappeared into the void, leaving him alone but unafraid. The lesson was clear: humans could achieve what others considered impossible. They could adapt, survive, and inspire respect, even from beings who had seen civilizations rise and fall across galaxies. He turned away from the observation window, ready to continue his work, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. Humanity had been tested, and in the vastness of space it had proved its worth. And in that proof, Ethan found something greater than pride: hope. The station was quiet now, but Ethan could still feel the echo of the storm in the hum of the hull. He floated through the corridors, hands brushing against the smooth walls as he checked monitors and ensured minor systems were stabilized. Though the immediate danger had passed, a lingering tension reminded him that space was never truly safe. One small miscalculation, one overlooked detail, and the consequences could be catastrophic. Yet there was a calm in him now, a confidence born from the storm, from the repair, and from the silent acknowledgement of the alien beside him. He returned to the observation deck, the place where he had watched the alien's ship shimmer and float in low gravity. The gas giant below cast shifting shadows across the station, painting patterns on the floor and walls. Ethan studied the view, feeling both small and limitless, aware of the vastness of space and the fragility of life, yet also aware of the power humans could wield through ingenuity, courage, and determination. The alien's ship hovered nearby, its systems fully restored. Ethan watched as she made final adjustments, checking external panels and running diagnostics with fluid movements that spoke of both experience and precision. The telepathic impressions he had felt earlier returned, softer now, carrying calm, gratitude, and curiosity. You have done more than repair. You have preserved trust, demonstrated courage, and proven that your species is remarkable. Ethan smiled faintly. He had not expected such words, even silently conveyed, but they filled him with quiet pride. He realized that this encounter was more than a simple repair mission. It was a bridge between species, a moment that could alter perceptions of humanity in ways that were impossible to predict. Humans were often underestimated, considered fragile, limited, and primitive. Yet here he was, standing as a testament to human adaptability and ingenuity, and the alien had seen it. A new alert rang softly through the station, signaling that the outer docking bay had detected a minor fluctuation in nearby energy fields. Ethan's heart leapt slightly. Even with the storm past, space was unpredictable. He hurried back to the ship, examining the panels. The alien was already there, floating near the controls with her eyes glowing faintly. She had removed her suit again, moving freely as she monitored the systems. Ethan noticed the subtle changes in her physiology, the way her skin reflected the station lights, the soft pulses of her markings that seemed to synchronize with the energy flows. "Looks like we're not done yet," Ethan said aloud, his voice calm but firm. The alien tilted her head as if acknowledging the statement, and Ethan felt the familiar telepathic impression: we are stronger together. Human ingenuity is rare and impressive. Working side by side, they addressed the fluctuation. Ethan improvised, using tools and techniques that the alien had not anticipated. Her eyes widened slightly, impressed. It was rare, she seemed to think, for a being with no specialized adaptations to handle such complex systems so effectively. Ethan did not slow. Humans thrived under pressure. It was in their nature to survive, to solve, to adapt. The alien's presence was both a challenge and an encouragement, pushing him to perform at his highest level. The hours passed like minutes. The energy readings stabilized and the systems hummed smoothly once more. Ethan felt a surge of satisfaction, not just from the technical success, but from the growing bond he shared with this alien being. She had tested him, guided him, and ultimately respected him. That respect was rare, hard-earned, and deeply meaningful. Humans often had to prove themselves in ways other species did not, and now he realized he had succeeded. The alien moved closer, extending a hand toward the stabilizer panel. Ethan hesitated, then helped her make a final adjustment. Sparks flickered briefly as the conduit aligned perfectly and the system accepted the correction. The alien's eyes reflected what Ethan interpreted as awe, and for a moment, it was as if the vast distances of the universe shrank to the space between them. Two beings, different in form, yet united in purpose. As the final systems checked green, Ethan felt a wave of relief and triumph. The storm was gone, the fluctuations addressed, and the alien's ship was ready for departure. Yet a strange melancholy settled over him. He had grown accustomed to her presence, her silent guidance, and the connection they had formed. Space could be lonely, and bonds were rare. But he also understood that this was not the end. This encounter, this recognition, would linger long after they parted ways. The alien's suit sealed around her form once more, leaving her glowing markings faintly visible beneath the surface. She floated near Ethan, her eyes locked onto his, conveying something more profound than words could express: trust, respect, and acknowledgement. You have earned something rare among humans. You have demonstrated strength not in force, but in mind and courage. Ethan nodded, feeling the truth of it deep in his chest. Humans often underestimated their own abilities, but here, in this moment, he understood that their greatest strength was not in physical power, but in the capacity to think, to adapt, and to act decisively under pressure. That was something no suit, no advanced technology, no alien physiology could replicate fully. The station's intercom crackled softly, signaling the alien's ship was ready for launch. Ethan floated back slightly, preparing to watch her leave. The telepathic impression he received was gentle, filled with both farewell and gratitude. Your species will endure, thrive, and surprise those who doubt it. You have my respect, human. Ethan felt a quiet pride swell in his chest. Humanity had been tested and had prevailed, not through dominance or raw strength, but through thought, skill, courage, and heart. The alien's acknowledgement confirmed what he had always suspected. Humans could rise to challenges that others deemed impossible. As the ship activated its thrusters and began to leave the station's bay, Ethan followed its movement with his eyes. He noted the elegance of its design, the seamless integration of technology and biology, and the confidence it carried as it moved through space. Yet, he also knew that it had been his hands, his choices, and his ingenuity that had made this moment possible. Humans might be fragile, but they could overcome through resilience and intelligence. The alien glanced back at him once more before disappearing into the void. Ethan waved, a simple human gesture, knowing she would understand its meaning even if she could not see it in the usual way. Trust, connection, respect, they transcended species and language. The station was quiet once more. Ethan floated toward the observation deck, staring at the swirling colors of the gas giant below. The storm had passed, leaving behind calm waters and clear skies. He reflected on everything that had happened: the storm, the critical repairs, the aliens' trust, and the bond they had formed. Humans often felt small in the vastness of space, but in moments like these, they realized their true potential. He cleaned his tools and stored them carefully, preparing to file the report. Yet the encounter was not just a mission to be recorded. It was a memory, a lesson, and a reminder of what humans could achieve. He understood now that adaptability, courage, and creativity were the tools that defined his species. They were more important than speed, strength, or advanced technology. Humans could improvise, solve problems, and survive when others would fail. Ethan moved through the station, noting minor adjustments that could improve safety and efficiency. Every action he took reminded him that humans could make a difference, not just for themselves, but for those they encountered. Even beings far more advanced could see the value of human ingenuity and spirit. Hours passed, and the station's quiet was comforting. Ethan sat at a small table, resting his hands and letting his mind wander. He thought about the alien, her physiology, her skills, and the telepathic impressions that had guided him. He realized that this encounter had changed him. Humans were capable of more than survival. They could inspire respect, build trust, and forge connections that transcended biology and language. The alien's ship shimmered faintly in his memory, a reminder that the galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, and full of beings whose perceptions of humanity might evolve over time. Humans had the power to shape that perception through courage, intelligence, and the ability to act decisively in the face of danger. It was a lesson he would carry with him forever. Ethan reflected on the storm, the repairs, and the moments when he had acted without hesitation. He understood now that humans were often underestimated because their true strength was subtle. It was mental, emotional, and moral. They could think when others panicked, adapt when others froze, and persevere when others failed. That was why the alien had respected him, why she had removed her suit, and why she had shared trust. As night settled over the station, Ethan looked out at the endless expanse of space. He knew humanity had a place among the stars, not because they were the strongest, but because they were clever, adaptable, and brave. He felt a quiet determination. Whatever challenges the galaxy held, humans would rise to meet them. They would endure, survive, and earn the respect of those who doubted them. The alien's telepathic impression returned one final time. Your species is rare and capable. You have proven it today. Remember this strength. Ethan nodded, understanding that this was not just a personal acknowledgement but a universal truth. Humans could endure, adapt, and succeed in ways that were often invisible until tested. The station's lights dimmed, casting soft shadows across the corridors. Ethan cleaned the last of his tools, stored the remaining supplies, and floated toward the observation deck once more. He gazed at the stars, imagining the alien's ship moving gracefully through the void, carrying its pilot on her mission of exploration. The memory of her trust, her guidance, and her respect filled him with hope. Ethan understood that encounters like this defined humanity's place in the cosmos. Humans were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most technologically advanced, but they possessed qualities that made them remarkable: the ability to think, to act courageously, and to earn trust through deeds rather than appearances. In a galaxy filled with unknown dangers, that would be their greatest weapon. As he floated in silence, he made a quiet promise to himself. Humanity would continue to rise, adapt, and survive. They would meet the unknown with courage, ingenuity, and heart. And when the stars tested them again, they would prove that human skill and determination were forces to be reckoned with, even among beings who had traveled the galaxy for centuries. Ethan watched the gas giant one last time before turning away. The alien ship was gone, but the impression she left, the acknowledgement of human worth, remained. He felt a deep sense of pride and responsibility. Humanity had been seen, tested, and respected, and in that recognition lay the promise of greater encounters, greater challenges, and the endless potential of human ingenuity. With steady hands and a determined heart, Ethan returned to his duties. The station was calm, the storm had passed, and the universe awaited. Humanity had proven itself, not through raw power, but through intelligence, courage, and the ability to rise to challenges no one expected them to meet. And somewhere far beyond the station, the alien would carry that knowledge into the stars, a reminder that humans were not just survivors, they were remarkable. Ethan took a final look out into space, feeling the weight and the wonder of it all. He knew the journey of humanity was only beginning. The alien had left, but the lesson remained. Humans could face the unknown, adapt, and earn respect even in the most extraordinary circumstances. That truth would guide them, inspire them, and define them in the galaxy for generations to come. And with that, Ethan smiled, ready for whatever awaited humanity next.